We are the authors of our own stories. You are holding your own book, not literally, but you're writing your story. It's your story. You're not just living it, you are writing it right now. Every decision, every asset, every move you make, you are writing the next chapter. And the question is simple. Does your story continue or does it disappear into nothing? If you've ever seen the NeverEnding Story, you already understand this. You just didn't realize it. Today, you're going to see something most people never see. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. You're welcome. You know that feeling when something important gets pushed off, not ignored, just delayed? You tell yourself, I'll get to it later. And the logic sounds reasonable. You're busy, you're building, you're handling what's in front of you. So you keep moving. You stay productive. You check the boxes. You solve problems. You make progress. But underneath all of that, there's a quiet awareness. Something unfinished, something unstructured, something that doesn't have a place yet. And you feel it in moments you don't expect. When things slow down, when the house gets quiet, when your mind finally has space to think, it's subtle, but it's there. And in the never ending story, that force has a name: the nothing. Not chaos, not destruction, something more dangerous than that: absence. It doesn't crash in, it doesn't announce itself, it doesn't ask for permission. It just removes things, piece by piece, layer by layer, until what was once there isn't. And that's exactly how most families lose control. Not through bad decisions, not through reckless behavior, through no decision, through delay, through the assumption that later will always be there. You build, you accumulate, you create momentum, you make smart moves, you do the hard work. And from the outside, it looks like everything is working. But without structure, there's nothing protecting it. No system holding it together, no container giving it shape, no framework that says this continues exactly as intended. So what happens? Not hypothetically, predictably, the courts step in, not because they want to, but because they have to. The timeline stretches. What could have been simple becomes slow. What could have been clear becomes confusing. What could have been seamless becomes fragmented. The cost rises, not just financially, emotionally, relationally, mentally, and clarity, the thing that your family will need most in that moment, disappears. Now, decisions are made under pressure, without guidance, without structure, without the systems you could have put in place. And your story, the one you've been carefully building, gets rewritten. Not by someone who understands you, not by someone who knows your intentions, but by a process, a default system designed for efficiency, not for your life, not because you did anything wrong, but because you left a space unfilled. And systems don't tolerate empty space. They fill it automatically. That's the part most people never see. You're not choosing between doing nothing and doing something. You're choosing between a system you design or a system that gets assigned to you. And here's where everything shifts. Trust is not about preparing for an ending. That's the smallest way to think about it. A trust is what keeps the nothing out of your story. It's the line in the sand. It's the boundary that says this does not get touched. It's the structure that holds everything in place. So your life keeps moving forward exactly as you intended. It's a force field around your momentum, around your decisions, around everything you've worked to build. So instead of hoping things hold together, they do by design. And that's the difference between a story that continues and a story that gets interrupted, between momentum and confusion, between clarity and chaos, between a life that flows and a life that gets paused at the exact moment it shouldn't. And once you see that, you don't look at planning the same way again. You are Atreyu, not metaphorically, not as an abstract idea, right here, right now. You're the one standing at the edge of responsibility. You're the one being asked to move, not because everything's falling apart, but because something valuable has been placed in your hands. Your family, your future, your momentum, your life. You've been given responsibility, not just to live, but to protect something bigger than yourself. That's what leadership feels like. It's not loud, it's not always dramatic. A lot of time, leadership looks very ordinary. A conversation, a decision, a document, a system. A simple move that nobody applauds in the moment. But years later, everyone benefits because you made it. That is the moment you're in. And Atreyu does not wait until everything is perfect. He doesn't say, let me come back when I feel more prepared. He does not say, I need more proof before I move. He does not say, maybe this journey is for someone else who has more resources. He moves with what he has. He moves because standing still is its own kind of risk. That's the part most people miss. You think delay is neutral. You think waiting costs nothing. You think putting it off is just buying more time. But waiting is not passive. Waiting is a decision. And actually, it's a decision to let uncertainty stay in charge. So you tell yourself, I need more assets. I need more complexity. I need to reach some level first. I need to be further along. And on the surface, that sounds responsible. It sounds measured. It sounds wise. But underneath it, it is often hesitation dressed up as prudence, because that's not how this works. Trust planning is not a reward for arriving. It's not something handed to you once you have finally reached a certain tax bracket, net worth, or stage of life. It's not the trophy at the end of the journey. It's the vehicle that helps you travel the road with more confidence. It's the map in your hand. It's the structure under your feet. It's the reason the journey becomes clearer while you're still on it. That's what people miss. They think structure comes after success. In reality, structure is often what makes success sustainable. Trust planning helps you arrive faster because it removes friction. It creates clarity, not vague clarity, real clarity. Clarity around who's in charge, clarity around what happens next, clarity around how things are meant to flow. It creates efficiency. Because once decisions are made in advance, your life does not stall every time something important comes up. It creates direction. Because when your systems are aligned, your energy stops leaking into uncertainty. And that changes the way you live. When Atreyu moves forward, the path reveals itself. Not all at once, not with a giant spotlight from the sky, just enough for the next step, then the next one, and then the next one. That's how clarity works in real life, too. You don't always get clarity before action. A lot of the time, clarity meets you because of action, because you finally stepped forward, because you finally decided, because you stopped waiting to feel completely ready. When you put structure in place, your life simplifies. It does not mean life becomes smaller. It means life becomes cleaner, more intentional, more coherent. Decisions become easier because you're no longer making every important choice from scratch. You stop guessing, you stop wondering, you stop carrying that low grade mental weight in the background. That's the quiet question. That thing I need to do, that thing I know I need to handle, that quiet drag on your focus, the subtle pressure that follows you into otherwise good days. Because now there's a system holding everything together. That is what a trust really is. Not just paperwork, not just a legal tool, a system, a stabilizing structure, a quiet piece of infrastructure that allows everything to function with less friction. Think about it like this. You would not build a business without systems. You would not hire people and scale operations and grow revenue while saying, we'll just keep everything informal and hope it all works out. You would not call that strategy. You would call that exposure. You would not scale without structure. Because you know growth without systems creates chaos. So why would you build your life that way? Why would you build a family, assets, responsibilities, and momentum with no clear structure underneath it? Why would you treat your most important world more casually than a business plan? That is the reframe. A trust is not a finish line. It's an infrastructure. It's the operating system behind your life. The thing most people never see, but the thing that affects everything. It is what allows your intentions to become organized. It is what allows responsibility to have a framework. It is what allows your values to keep functioning even when life changes. And once it's in place, everything runs smoother. Not because life becomes perfect, not because life becomes supported. You move differently when you know the foundation is solid. You think differently, you plan differently, you breathe differently, because now your life is not being held together by memory, assumptions, and good intentions. It's being held together by design. That's what leaders do. They do not wait until pressure becomes unbearable. They build before chaos arrives. They create order while things are still calm. They put structure in place not because they are afraid, but because they are responsible, because they are building something worth protecting. And that's you. You're not behind. You're not disqualified because you do not think that you have enough yet. You're not early. You are right on time for the decision that changes how your story moves forward. Because the moment you stop treating planning like a distant milestone and start treating it like present day leadership, everything changes. Now you're not just reacting to life, you're leading it. Now you're not just building momentum, you're protecting it. Now you're not just hoping the path works out, you're creating the structure that lets the path open in front of you. That is why you're a Treyu, because this is the moment where you move, not when everything is perfect. Now. You are Bastion from the NeverEnding Story. Sitting there, watching, learning, listening. At first, it feels like you're just taking something in, just gathering information, just observing someone else's story unfold. That's how it always starts. You watch, you listen, you tell yourself, this is interesting. This is helpful. This is something I should probably think about. But you keep a little distance, you keep it theoretical, you keep it in the category of something I'll deal with later. And then something shifts, not outside of you, inside. You start recognizing pieces, moments that feel familiar, decisions that you've been putting off, conversations you have avoided, responsibilities that you know are there but have not fully stepped into yet. And suddenly it doesn't feel like you're watching anymore. It feels like the story is watching you. That is the moment Bastion reaches. The realization. He's not separate from the story. He's inside it. And that is the moment for you, right now. You're not outside of this conversation. You're not collecting random information for some future version of yourself. This is your life, actively unfolding in real time. And whether you engage with it or not, the story keeps moving. That is the part that most people misunderstand. They think doing nothing pauses things. It doesn't. Life doesn't wait for clarity. Life moves forward with or without structure, which means something very important is happening right now. If you don't intentionally design your structure, a default structure is being applied automatically, quietly, without asking, and it's not designed for you. It's not built around your values. It doesn't understand your family. It does not reflect your intentions. It is simply a system, a process, a set of rules created for efficiency, not for your life. That is what probate is. Not punishment, not failure, just default. The system that steps in when no personal system was created. And when that happens, things slow down, clarity fades, decisions get harder, because now the people you care about most are operating inside a structure that was never designed for them. You've seen versions of this before. A family trying to figure things out, everyone doing their best, but no one fully clear on what was intended. Questions without answers, delays that did not need to exist, stress layered on top of an already emotional moment. And you can feel it when you see it. This could have been easier. This could have been smoother. This did not have to be this hard. And you're right, it didn't. Not with complexity, with intention. That's the shift. A properly designed trust does something most people don't expect. It does not just create a plan for the future, it improves your life right now, immediately. Because the moment structure's in place, things organize, not just on paper, in your mind, in your energy, in the way that you move through your day. You stop carrying open loops. You stop mentally bookmarking something you need to handle. You stop pushing something important into the background of your life because now it is handled. And that changes how you show up. You become more present, more focused, more available for the things that actually matter, because your brain is no longer allocating space to unresolved structure. That's what most people are actually craving. Not more information, not more complexity, clarity. A sense that things are aligned. And once that alignment is there, something powerful happens. You stop thinking in terms of what if something goes wrong? And you start thinking in terms of what do I want to build next? That is a completely different way to live. That is the shift from protection to momentum, from reaction to creation, from uncertainty to direction. And it all comes from one decision: to stop sitting in the stands and step into the story, to stop observing and start designing, to stop treating this like some external and recognize that this is already yours. You are already in the story. You're already the one holding the pen. The only question is, are you writing intentionally? Or are you leaving parts of your story unwritten for a system to fill in later? Because it will, it always does. And once you see that, you can't go back to thinking this is something optional. This is not about someday. This is not about when things get bigger. This is about now. Because now is when the story is being written. And now is when you decide whether it unfolds by design or by default. At the end of the never-ending story, everything comes down to one moment. Not a battle, not a spectacle, not some complicated strategy. A moment, a decision, a name. Bastion has to give the Empress a name. And what is so powerful about that moment is this. He's not asked to overpower the problem. He's not asked to work it out. He's not asked to become a different person first. He's asked to choose, to speak, to name, to participate in the rebuilding of the world through intention, and then act. And that act rebuilds everything, not with complexity, with clarity, with decision, with ownership. That is why the scene hits so deeply, because you know what it feels like to stand at the edge of a decision that changes everything. You know what it feels like to sense that something important is waiting for you. Not someday, now. That's the moment you're in when you create a trust. You're not filling out paperwork, you're not checking a box. You are naming the structure of your life. You are saying, this is how my world is meant to work. This is how what I have built continues. This is who steps in. This is what stays protected. This is what matters most. This is what does not get left to confusion. This is what does not get handed over to a default system. You're taking what may have been vague in your mind and giving it form. That is what naming does. It takes something unstructured and makes it real. It takes something floating in the background in your mind and brings it into order. It takes good intentions and turns them into a system that can actually carry weight. That is why this matters so much. Because most people live with important things in an undefined state. They mean well, they care deeply, they want things to go well, but they've never translated those desires into structure. So what they have is hope. And hope is beautiful. But hope is not a plan. Hope does not create flow. Hope does not remove confusion. Hope does not tell people what happens next. Structure does. That is the power of a trust. You're deciding how things flow, not in a controlling way, in a clear way. You're deciding who steps in, not because you're expecting chaos, but because leadership creates continuity before it's needed. You are deciding what continues: the values, the momentum, the order, the care, the vision. You are deciding what matters enough to be protected by design. That's not fear, that's authorship. That's maturity. That's leadership at its quietest and strongest. And when that structure is finally in place, something shifts inside of you, not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because uncertainty loses its grip. You relax, not theoretically, not all at once, but deeply. The kind of exhale you didn't realize you'd been holding. You breathe differently. Because there's a difference between carrying responsibility and carrying undefined responsibility. One feels meaningful, the other feels heavy. One gives you direction, the other drains your energy in the background. That is what so many people are feeling and cannot quite name. It's not just that they have important responsibilities, it's that those responsibilities have not been fully organized. They're carrying concern without structure, care without a container, love without a system. And when a trust is put in place, that changes. Now your care has form. Now your intentions have language. Now your responsibility has rails. Now the people you love are supported by something stronger than memory or assumptions. And because of that, you stop hoping things work out. You have designed them to. That sentence matters because there is a world of difference between wishing for peace and building it, between wanting clarity and creating it, between assuming things will be okay and putting the right system in place so it's no longer left to chance. That's what most people are actually looking for. Not documents, not binders, not signatures. Those are just the visible pieces. What they're really looking for is peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing that important things have been handled. Clarity, kind that removes friction from the future. Confidence, not borrowed confidence, not motivational confidence, grounded confidence. The kind that comes from knowing your foundation is solid. And with that, you move forward fully, without hesitation, because the open loop is closed, without second guessing, because the decision has been made, without that low grade tension quietly following you through otherwise beautiful days, because now there's a structure under the life you're building. That is what a solid foundation does. It does not make life smaller, it makes life freer. It gives you more room to live, more room to focus, more room to enjoy what you've built because you're no longer carrying the background anxiety of what has been left undefined. That is the hidden gift in all of this. Trust is not just about what happens later. It changes the emotional quality of life now. You sleep better, you think cleaner, you show up more fully. Because when the foundation is solid, your energy is no longer spent bracing for what hasn't been handled. It's available for living, for building, for leading, for being present. That's why this moment in the story matters. Bastion names the Empress, and the world begins. You create a trust, and your world gains structure. Not because a document is magical, even though I think it is, but because intention, when given form, changes everything. It turns a wish into a system, a burden into a plan, a hope into a framework. And once that happens, you're not just someone who cares, you're someone who has created order. You're not just someone with good intentions, you are someone with structure. You're not just trusting that things will continue, you're the one who made the continuation possible. That's the shift from uncertainty to design, from background tension to grounded peace, from loose ends to leadership, because now the foundation is solid. And when the foundation is solid, the story can keep moving. You already feel it, that shift that I've been talking about, that realization that this isn't about someday. This is about how you live right now, with clarity, with structure, with intention. If you're ready to put that structure in place, there's a simple next step. A 20-minute conversation. No pressure, no obligation, just clarity. A chance to see what your story could look like with the right system behind it. Because at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your story. Make it a good one. If you enjoy these videos, please like, share, comment, or subscribe. And for more information, visit legallifeplan.com.